There hasn't been a team busier this offseason than the Jacksonville Jaguars. New wide receivers, a tight end, a new offensive lineman, a linebacker, and defensive lineman all in one day. The priority for the Jaguars right now is very clear. Make sure you're putting Trevor Lawrence in the best position to be able to develop. Without a doubt, one of the most important things for the development of a rookie quarterback is their offensive line, and Jacksonville has gone out and made that a point of emphasis this offseason. For one, the Jaguars need to make sure that tackle Cam Robinson was going to stick around, so they decided to franchise tag him. They'll owe him around $16 million this season and have to figure it out next year. However, the biggest addition for the line for sure is guard Brandon Scherff. Scherff has been a stud for Washington for years, and the deals of that contract aren't available yet, but I can tell you that it's going to be a ton of money and likely worth it for Jacksonville. The two most important things for the Jaguars are to protect Trevor Lawrence and to get people to throw the ball to, and one of those new guys is Christian Kirk. Look, no offense to Christian Kirk or anything, but what the hell are the Jaguars doing paying him that type of money? Like $21 million for Christian Kirk? Really? Kirk is a very good football player. He's coming off one of the best seasons of his career with 982 yards, which means, yes, Christian Kirk has never had a season over 1,000 yards. He's actually the only wide receiver in the league making over $13 million a year that has never had a 1,000-yard season. I mean, hey, I'm happy for him. Go get that bag, bro. But still, it's a pretty ridiculous deal. I think it's going to make some more sense once the deals of that contract really come out. That has to be a contract with a ton of incentives to get that number. Plus, I'd imagine there may be a big out or money that the Jaguars can get out of if they want to cut him. Jacksonville wasn't done there when it came to adding weapons either. The Jaguars gave Evan Engram $10 million for a year, and I don't think he'll actually be used as a tight end. There's a good chance that he just gets outright moved to wide receiver like a lot of teams have explored him for. And honestly, it's probably the right move based off of his skill set. On defense, Jacksonville made a few splashes too. Foye Oluokun got a 3-year, $46.5 million deal. A huge get at linebacker. And on the defensive line, the Jaguars got Faloranzo Farakasi at $30 million for 3 years. Really, this just shows where the Jaguars' head is at. They are all in on building around Trevor Lawrence, as they should be. There has been a big swing on how people look at Trevor Lawrence over the last year, and that's fair. I don't think there could have been many situations that could hurt his development, but Urban Meyer was definitely up for that challenge. Lawrence was in one of the worst situations I've maybe ever seen for a rookie quarterback. He did show a lot of promise at times, but it was really just so hard to evaluate him. But it's clear that the Jaguars need to prioritize his development. Doug Peterson did a solid job developing Carson Wentz years ago in Philadelphia, and now he gets another stab at it in Jacksonville as the Jaguars head coach. I think bringing back Cam Robinson and adding Brandon Scherff are probably some of the best moves that the Jaguars made in correlation to being able to help Trevor Lawrence develop a little bit more. Expecting a quarterback to develop while having to run for his life usually doesn't work unless your name is Lamar Jackson or Kyler Murray. So in my opinion, I think it's a great move to kind of push Trevor Lawrence's development in the right direction. Now on to some of the offensive weapons that they picked up. I like Christian Kirk. I followed the Cardinals pretty close this last season, and watching him play, I can confidently say he's a really good wide receiver. But still, $21 million is insane. I'm sure there's a lot of incentives built in there to get to that number, but regardless, that number just looks insane. It's 100% an overpay, especially for a guy who was practically the third string wide receiver behind D-Hop and AJ Green last year. On top of all that, the fact that he still hasn't gone for 1,000 yards and got paid that much money is insane, especially considering that Devontae Adams is incredible and wants to get paid more than D-Hop and most likely won't get that money. But still, who really knows? Kirk could come in and be amazing and just pop off and all that money they spent on him would be worth it. Now that he's teaming up with a wide receiver that's already on the team, like Marvin Jones Jr., who the Jaguars went out and picked up last offseason. Another weapon going to be at the disposal of Trevor Lawrence is Evan Engram. I really like Evan Engram. I remember watching him coming into the league and just seeing how explosive he was and how good of a receiver he was. Like I said earlier, I do think he'll be moved to a more wide receiver-like position because I do think they're going to try to milk the most of his receiving abilities while they have him, because let's be honest, Evan Engram is not the best blocking tight end, but he sure as hell is good on the receiving end, and they're going to use his talents as well as they possibly can. So in my opinion, I think it's great to add another weapon on that line for Trevor Lawrence to throw to if guys like Marvin Jones Jr. or Christian Kirk aren't open. Speaking of wide receivers, I think one of the most slept on signings is probably Zay Jones. I really like Zay Jones. I watched him a lot last year, and he seems to show up when it matters, especially in that crazy week 1 overtime game between the Raiders and the Ravens where he caught the game-winning catch. Derek Carr seems to have a lot of high praise for Zay Jones and his work ethic, and I'm sure a lot of that is going to show in Jacksonville. They're honestly stacked at the wide receiver position now, so Lawrence really doesn't have any excuse to not be able to get the ball to somebody, especially because I believe all these wide receivers that they picked up are capable of making the big plays when they matter. That offensive line paired with these new weapons for Trevor Lawrence is a formula for success for any quarterback in the NFL, and I wouldn't be surprised if Lawrence balls out in 2022 because of it. The Jaguars are no doubt all in on Trevor Lawrence, and it seems like they kind of feel a little bit guilty for how bad they treated his rookie year. Jacksonville is spending big money this offseason and looking to compete in an AFC South division that looks like it's going to be a mess in 2022. So honestly, Jaguars fans, I think that opens up a window for the Jags to really push for a wild card spot, or who knows, maybe even a division title if Tennessee shits the bed. As for Trevor Lawrence, I think he's a very good quarterback. I think he fell victim to his circumstances last year, and because of that, can't really blame any of his shortcomings on him. This next season, however, is going to be the real test, and we're going to get to really see how good he is at the pro level. He now has all the tools he could have asked for: new wide receivers, a revamped offensive line, and even some defensive help on the other side of the ball. So Trevor Lawrence has zero excuses for not at least improving over last year, which isn't really saying much. Now, any quarterback that's going to be developing in the NFL needs a head coach that's going all in on them as well, and I believe Doug Peterson is that guy for Trevor Lawrence. I think he's a very good coach, and while things did bitter in Philly towards the end of his stint there, that still doesn't change my mind on the matter. He's a smart coach, a proven winner, and most importantly, he's not Urban Meyer. The Jaguars' 2022 season now lies on the shoulders of Trevor Lawrence and how well Doug Peterson can help him progress. If he can perform like he did in college, the Jaguars have the potential to have one of the most drastic single-season turnarounds ever. Even if the Jaguars can go 500 or better, I think the season is a success. I do believe Trevor Lawrence is your franchise guy, but the question is, are these weapons that the Jaguars added enough to push him over the top? Personally, I think they are, but like I said, this season lies in the hands of Trevor Lawrence and how he handles his future in the NFL. Jags fans should be really excited following years of misery after that 2017 playoff run in which they lost in the AFC Championship to the Patriots. Go Pats. But regardless, Jags fans, you should be excited for this next year. Your front office seems to be doing everything in their power to try to put money behind the quarterback position to build around him, and I think that's going to be huge for you guys next year. It also helps that the Colts don't have a quarterback, the Texans are struggling to get rid of Deshaun Watson, and the Titans kind of fell apart last season. Granted, I still think they're the best team in the AFC South, but the door is open for the Jaguars. So Jags fans, get excited because 2022 is going to be a fun season to watch.